CityCast Pittsburgh is brought to you today thanks to the Greater Pittsburgh Festival of Books. This year's fest is Saturday, May 31st at the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh in Oakland, where you can immerse yourself in the region's vibrant literary community with a free event that features bookish fun for all ages. Hear from award-winning authors like Rachel Khong, Tori Peters, Sharon Flake, and so many more, plus Grammy Award winner and poet Judy Collins. Visit pittsburghbookfestival.org to register and learn more. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, our bus and T-Line system, Pittsburgh Regional Transit, has proposed huge cuts to our local system. They say, as an authority, that they've been responsible. They have made the hard cuts. They've budgeted well. But if we want to keep this thing going, we need more help from the state, and fast, to literally keep the lights on. Today, we are with PRT, talking about why all this is happening right now and what moves they've been trying to make to bring home the hundreds of millions of dollars we need to keep this thing afloat. It's Wednesday, May 14th. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with Adam Brandolph, the spokesperson for Pittsburgh Regional Transit. We're in your office. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with what's on the chopping block. What changes are going to come to PRT here in Pittsburgh if no one intervenes? If no funding comes our way, how do you describe this to people as simply as possible?
The cuts are absolutely devastating and will affect every single neighborhood and community across Allegheny County. Some worse than others, but they will certainly be like devastating cuts. And that's not to mention the fare increase, which, I mean, it's a quarter. And for a lot of people, a quarter doesn't matter. But for a lot of people, that quarter does.
For a lot of people who ride PRT regularly, it matters a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. It could be a huge difference between, having some extra money at the end of the week for groceries. So we know how impactful all of this is.
And so the cuts themselves, PRT has said on its website that it could cut 35 up to 40% of service. What does that even look like? Everything
from eliminating routes altogether to eliminating trips throughout the day, but for every route, it's eliminating service after 11 p.m. So some routes are shortened and become feeder routes. We also make sure that some routes we deem to be like low income routes or routes that go through historically minority communities. We did our very best. First, we tried to maintain service and not really touch 25% of those routes. There was no way for us to find savings from not touching 25%. So we were able to not touch 10%, which it's better than nothing. But when we say that these cuts are going to impact our most transit dependent and those least of us who are able to afford transit, it really strikes home and is very much true. We did our best to sort of protect those classes and groups of people. But when you're attempting to cut this much service in order to find so much money in savings, nobody is going to be spared. I can't use the word devastating enough about how difficult it is, because I mean our goal is to grow service. Our goal is to serve more people, and not being able to just runs counter to what we want to do as an agency.
So I want to talk about how we got to this moment where we have all these proposed service cuts. A few months ago, your boss, Catherine Kellerman, the CEO of PRT, was talking to county council, and she said, we're not panicking yet. We're worried. There's always money to be thought of, but we're not in trouble. Why are we in trouble now, just 4 or 5 months later?
I think she was being hopeful that 4 or 5 months ago, the governor had not yet proposed his budget, which we had communicated with him that we had a great need. And so at that point, we weren't pushing the panic button.
So then the governor gives his budget address. It does not include this amount that you were pushing for. Then what?
Then it was, okay, this doesn't get us the funding that we need. So, right. So
Did you think it was going to be that big? Because I feel like it never is. Like the transit funding proposals from the state of Pennsylvania usually fall short.
We heard that public transit was going to be a priority of the governor.
Okay.
And in many ways, it was and still is, just the funding that has been proposed falls short of what's needed.
Okay.
So we've been talking about the end of Act 89 since 2018.
Which was a Pennsylvania thing that funded transit, basically. It
Correct.
dictated how different transit agencies got funded.
Yes, by and large. Yeah, it set up a fund to fund public transit statewide.
Yeah. Gave us a breather for a second.
It did. It was a 10-year bill that provided us with the funding that we needed. Mm-hmm. A little thing known as the global pandemic happened in 2020, which sort of changed the way that everybody looks at everything, but it also changed the conversation. So the pandemic also brought in federal stimulus funding. Stimulus funding allowed us to delay that cliff, the fiscal cliff, for about 2 years. But we are kind of exactly in the same place that we knew we would be in at the start of Act 89. And now we are asking for funding. We're seeking a 10-year bill that would get us money for another 10 years. But frankly, in 10 years, we would be in the same place that we are today.
I guess one of the big questions that we've been getting from folks is it feels like a sense of whiplash. PRT has been talking about a bus line redesign. There's been a lot of excitement building around that. Mm-hmm. There's been some talk of right sizing, making sure that the transit agency is fulfilling the needs of the community. And now there's talk of just doing away with all of it. We can't do anything. We're going to cease to exist as an organization as you know it if we don't get money now. How do you message that to people? I imagine that's got to be a really difficult conversation to have.
It is. And I think carefully is the number one answer, right? So
people are scared.
They should be. These are draconian, drastic, awful cuts that we do not want to make. But so all that said, bus line redesign was allowing us to take a holistic view of what transit looks like in Pittsburgh, using the same resources that we have today, minus the $100 million shortfall. It was allowing us to be more efficient and bring transit to more communities. And a lot of the bus routes that we have today are based off of routes that we had in 1960s, 1970s. And just places have changed. Hospitals have been built, grocery stores have been built. Nobody even 10 years ago lived in the Strip District. And that's just a very easy
today.
Example.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the process of BRT and why that was an exciting prospect. I guess, didn't you see the $100 million shortfall coming even before you started that process?
No.
Seriously?
I mean, we knew that there'd be challenges and that we would be facing a fiscal cliff. But to think that the deficit would be so great, really, we didn't. We knew that this was coming. We also planned for this will be by and large okay, because everybody knows that Act 89 is essentially sunsetting. So the increases that we've seen over time would continue.
Okay.
And they didn't. So they're not, right? So they're not keeping up with what we need to sustain ourselves as an organization.
I mean, I think one of the big comparisons I keep seeing is to SEPTA, for example, the transit system over in Philly. I hope it's okay to say they've been extremely loud about being broke for a very long time. They've been sounding the alarm and they have a lot of rallies. They even work with organizations here in Pittsburgh about it. It seems like maybe PRT was doing the same thing, but so quietly that nobody realized we were in a crisis yet. I'm curious how you that strikes you, because I wonder if maybe PRT should have been sounding the alarm louder before right now.
I think there's a difference between some, I don't want to call out any agencies by name or specifically, right? But we've heard this time and time again from some agencies over and over, year after year.
There are a lot of agencies in the state of Pennsylvania that do all manner of work that cry like emergency a lot, and to try to get funding and to do other things.
They don't, and then they don't get funding and they're fine. So I think that we really wanted to like ensure or not be overly like boy who cried wolf. We wanted to make sure that if we were really facing a financial crisis, that we were really facing a financial crisis. And other agencies we see, they claim or they say that they're in a financial disaster year after year after year. And frankly, that hasn't necessarily been the case with us. We could have sounded the alarm on this a year ago, but it was also like, we also have to, this isn't done in a vacuum. We're looking at this as strategically. So are House seats up? Are the Senate seats up? Is there a governor's race? Things like that, that frankly shouldn't, but it does play into the sort of like the politics of transit funding.
When you ask for money and who you're asking it of.
Yeah.
Well, who are your partners so far? Because like it is a big uphill climb to wait for a budget address, not hear the number you want, and then try to get a much larger number in just a couple months before it's supposed to be passed. Pennsylvania never does it on time, but still June 30th is the deadline. It
is definitely threading a needle, you know, and it's tough, but it's also, you don't want to start saying that it's an emergency too soon. Everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback and say that we didn't sound this alarm sooner, and it may very well be that we run out of time for this legislative session and that we are making difficult choices in order to have some another conversation next year.
Yeah. Well, so who's on Team PRT right now? Can you name names? Like, are you getting the support you need?
We have a lot of supporters throughout the state. I don't want to name names, but those who are obvious are supporters.
Yeah.
And those who may be, who are obviously not, are not.
Senate Republicans. You didn't have to say it. I said it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes.
But I assume the House is maybe a little more on board, controlled by Democrats. So probably still some hearts and minds to win over on both sides of the aisle. More to be done. But from an outsider's perspective, it would be kind of nice if a few of them would also use their voice.
Well, we know where being loud counts the most, right? So we are in constant communication with people, and by and large, they're like, we love you, but it doesn't necessarily translate to we're going to give you the funding that you need.
I mean, what is your prognosis as of this moment? Because, the cuts were just announced here pretty recently. Again, we have this deadline of the budget passing, kind of hanging out in the future, the near future. How's it looking right now?
I would say that I am hopeful, but obviously realistic. So I think that even if the funding that we need does not come through, I think that there's still opportunities for the governor, for the state legislature to enact legislation or provide funding that will, at the very least, reduce the cut proposal to a point where I don't know if we can stave off the cuts entirely without, but there's so many different ways to sort of slice and dice it, whether it's like capitalizations or we have a pretty healthy emergency fund balance, that using the entire emergency fund balance doesn't it all makes sense. In many cases, we simply can't because it's used for so many other reasons. But depending on how the funding conversation goes, we would at least hope to see less cuts than what we've proposed. This is the 35% cuts and 9% fare increase is essentially the worst case scenario because it assumes that there's no action taken whatsoever.
Today's episode is supported by ACTA. If you're planning on spending a day looking for furniture at IKEA, getting your deals from TJ Maxx, maybe fueling up on a mall pretzel, you don't need to stress about getting in and out of every one of these parking lots. Instead, hop on to the Ride ACTA shuttle for just 25 cents, an actual quarter. The shuttle connects more than 275 businesses within just 2 miles of that IKEA bus stop in Robinson, and it makes shopping and running errands a lot less stressful. For just 25 cents a ride, I truly don't think there is a better deal in town. And riding the shuttle is also super easy. So just head over to that bus stop in front of the IKEA, and when the bus comes, tell the driver where you want to go. To get picked up, you can let them know in advance what time you're going to need your ride, or you can call 412-442-4773 when you're ready to leave. You do need exact change, so bring your quarters, but I think a few quarters is totally worth that store-to-store chauffeur service. To learn more, check out ACTA's Instagram at RideACTA. That's ACTA.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new Next-Gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next-Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
Is there any world in which you ask for more money? So you're not just like keeping things where they are, but actually trying to expand, to dream a little bit?
We would love to dream, but at this point, and so we are working with Pittsburghers for Public Transit, who they're asking for more than what's needed in order to get us to so we can increase service, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, there have been a lot of cuts. It's been like 20%, I think, since the pandemic. And like 40% over the last 2 decades. That's how they frame it.
That's about right. It's I know it's 36% since 2007 or so.
Like, that's a lot.
Which is a lot. Yeah. And so if you look at other transit agencies in the state, they haven't cut. So or they've cut to a much, much, much smaller amount. So
But that, I think, brings us back to like the original question, like where PRT has tried to pinch pennies and to mind the budget as closely as possible. They've also made a tremendous number of cuts over all these years too, where other organizations haven't made those cuts and they maybe did make a little bit more noise. I know it's Monday morning quarterbacking, but like, could we have yelled a little louder back then? I realize you also weren't there at the time.
Yeah. And we've also been working behind the scenes, maybe not making like a huge public display of this, but we've certainly
Are we being too Pittsburgh nice about it though? Like Philly's being real loud.
But what have they gotten? I mean, yeah, they got a flex last year. They got a $153 million flex last year.
$153 million is a lot. I realize their agency is also a lot larger.
It's a lot, but you know what? They're back at the table this year.
But now we have to be at the table with them.
True. And lawmakers in Harrisburg are not on SEPTA's side. So we go to Harrisburg and we hear negative things about SEPTA because they haven't made the same sacrifices that we have made here in Pittsburgh, yet they are funded. And it's almost like, are they too important to fail or are they too big to fail? Maybe they have a different perspective on what's needed, but the governor flexed $153 million in federal funding to SEPTA. A lot of the state legislators whose districts that money would have gone to, frankly, they're pissed that the funding that would have otherwise gone to projects in their communities went to SEPTA. You can argue, and I would 100% argue this all day long, that Philadelphia and Pittsburgh contribute more to the state budget than what we receive. And whether that's for public transit or for roads and bridges, for anything else, we make Pennsylvania work. And so we should be getting back more money than not more than what we're putting in, but we should receive the greater piece of the pie. And so essentially that's what we're asking for, is like, give us our fair share, give us our piece of the pie.
So there's these conversations happening behind the scenes. I'm sure a lot of talk in Harrisburg. What are you hearing from riders? Because I know public comment has been open for a while since you unveiled these changes. How are people talking directly to PRT?
By and large, the comments are essentially like pointing east to Harrisburg and making sure that people are aware that if up to our own druthers, we would have, you know,
a bus to everywhere,
a bus to every community, like 18 buses.
We would have built
parks.
6 more T lines back in the 1960s.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And so I think that so people, by and large, understand that we are situated between a rock and a hard place, right? And that we want to provide a service and we're cash strapped and are unable to. And so
do people see it that way genuinely? Because like when you've experienced a cut on a cut on a cut in some communities, and then there's an even bigger cut now dangled. There are many who would see that as fiscal responsibility, but there would also be, I think it's a very human response to be like, are you kidding again?
Definitely. Right. So every time we've cut service since I've been here it's almost 10 years now, we've heard, how dare you make these cuts? And that is on us because we choose where those cuts happen. And it's the perception of we're doing it. And frankly, yes, we are. We're cutting service in order to be fiscally responsible. There is no other reason, or maybe there's like a onesie twosie where there's like very low ridership and that makes the most sense. But it's still generally a financial decision. Because we have limited resources, it's like we can cut the service here and put it that's not seeing any, a whole lot of ridership, and put it over here where there is a lot of ridership. And people see that, some people see that as a business decision, and then they're like, you run a terrible business. We're not a business. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen over and over. And like we read the Reddit comments and everything, and I think by and large, yes, there's all those people who are super negative and fuck Port Authority and fuck PRT, right? But by and large,
bringing out the old name, they they mean it now.
Oh yeah. Well, when they say fuck Pat, that's that goes way back.
That really hits deep.
It does. But like we know we're gonna hear that, and I mean, yeah, it takes a lot to not respond to comments, but like we certainly have I think if you ask anybody in this building or at any of our operating divisions, like we care about our riders. We are transit advocates. We want to see more transit. We want to provide access to people. Like everybody here really cares about the community and knows the importance of like what transit can do when it is done well.
What do you want folks that are mad to do?
Well, we want folks to contact their legislators and let them know how important it is, because ultimately the future of public transit in Pittsburgh is going to be made in Harrisburg. There's no other way around that.
The county can't save you. The city can't save you.
No. I mean, the city provides no funding to our budget.
But they do have a loud mouthpiece in the face of the mayor.
The mayor is a great advocate. Yes. And the county executive is a great and county council and city council, absolutely. But right now it really comes down to dollars and cents. We know what happened with the property tax proposal. And so I don't know if there is the appetite here locally to fund transit in such a way. So there may be a time down the road where people are gonna hate me for saying this, but where we would like have or propose a tax locally for people to fund transit more. But I don't know if like that may work in Garfield and Bloomfield and places where you already have robust public transit. But I don't know if that would work in places in like Marshall Township, where the evidence of good public transit is less clear.
So I guess to recap then, like you're getting the comments, only Harrisburg can save us. You want people to contact their lawmakers. And do you want lawmakers to speak up?
Absolutely. And we know that House Democrats and Republicans passed the governor's legislation 3 times last year.
But you need more than that now.
We do. And so there needs to be a
new proposal.
A new proposal, right.
Is anyone going to file that for you?
We sure hope so.
Is that in the works now?
Maybe.
Any timeline for when we might be able to see something on paper?
Before July 1st. Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully well before, so that there can be some discussion for your sake.
Sure. Yeah. I think that the interest in this issue is only going to grow over the next 2-3 months, because every public transit agency in Pennsylvania is in different boats on the same river, and we're all heading toward this funding cliff, right? So SEPTA may be closer to the cliff.
And a bigger boat.
In like a cruise ship. And we're very close behind.
On the Gateway Clipper.
Yeah, but like every other transit agency is in like rowboats. They lost an oar and they're sweating, and they should be. Like this is causing a panic statewide, and it's time. It's been over 10 years. There needs to be a new public transit funding mechanism.
Yeah. I mean, is there any reality in which no one files that proposal for you, that you are navigating effectively sunsetting a huge portion of this agency in the next year or 2?
I really hope not.
Adam, thank you.
Thank you.
So look, it's not all bad news. Adam says programs like Allegheny Go, which offers discounted fares, tap to pay, and the new Connect cards, those are all still in the works. And behind the scenes, lawmakers have been talking about some new ideas for transit bills. One that would consolidate our system with some smaller ones around us, one that would add a tax to ride sharing or car rental fees, and another to privatize. The clock is ticking. As we're recording this, nothing has been filed, so we will see what shakes out. If you have thoughts and you want to connect with your legislator to make your voice heard, please check out our website or the Hey Pittsburgh newsletter today. We are sharing a bunch of great resources to get you started. That is all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. We will be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. We'll talk to you soon.
This is a little bleak, I gotta be honest.
Oh, I know. We went from being very excited for like bus line redesign and here's the proposal, give us your feedback, and we still have folks working on bus line redesign just to get it to a place where it's incorporating everybody's feedback, and it's turning out to like the world may never see it.
Those people are still doing that work in here?
Yeah. If the work that's being done in this building is any show, like we're going to get the money because we're all working our asses off. So that has to count for something. I can't imagine
There's no
that it's
justice
not.
in the world, Adam. I don't know how to tell you.